We got that running, that's recording, and we're in focus. Well, congratulations. You have wandered into the first installment of Pinhoti Takeaways, where we will be coming up with a topic, whether you suggest it or something that I think is important, and we will be diving into the many episodes we have available of the Pinhoti Project to help explain what we're trying to get across here. Today, it's going to be 3 sounds I believe we need to be training our ears for this spring to make us more successful. Alright, so the first sound we're going to discuss that I think is very important for us to be training our ears for this spring, it's going to help us be more successful, is the drumming of a wild turkey. It's pretty obvious why it would be beneficial to be able to listen to and determine if we're listening to a wild turkey drum or not. But a lot of people claim that they just can't hear wild turkeys drum, and I think a lot of times that's going to be maybe true in some situations, but many times I think it's just because we haven't trained our ears to listen for it. Sometimes it's not the sound of the drumming turkey itself, rather than the rhythm that those drums are coming that we can differentiate and determine that it is a wild turkey we're listening to. You can start with YouTube and getting a base on what a drumming turkey sounds like. But definitely suggest going to a farm or finding somebody that's got tame turkeys and listening to that turkey drum, stepping back 50, 75, 100 yards and listening to that turkey drum, because strutting turkeys drum with a rhythm. And if you can determine that rhythm and kind of figure out that spacing, a lot of times in the woods I'll hear something and I'm like, man, was that a turkey drumming? And I have to wait for that spacing to go by, and then it does it again. Then it does it again, and you can almost confirm that is in fact what you're listening to. Let's jump into a couple episodes here and see what we can learn from. This is episode 17, going to jump into the 4-minute and 8-second mark.
Oh, you're drumming. I've been listening to a turkey drumming for about 2 minutes. I think it's off my right, isn't it?
Okay, in that situation, you're just, me and Chubbs are sitting against a tree, and we both confirmed that we've listened to a turkey drum, so we know we're close to a gobbler. Without being able to determine that we were listening to drumming, we wouldn't know that. That tells us a lot when you can hear a drumming turkey. That tells you you're close to a gobbler, first off, obviously, but second off, it tells you you're close to a relaxed turkey, or a turkey that is not afraid, it's not spooked. Spooked, scared gobblers do not drum. It also lets you know he's either heard a hen or he's with a hen, because here again, they're drumming for a reason. Drumming works exactly like gobbling works. It attracts hens. It's just something that you can't hear unless you're really close to them. So it's a close proximity type thing. So if you're listening to a drumming turkey, you're sitting against a tree, you're hunting, whatever you're doing, you're listening to a drumming turkey, you're in a good spot, you've said the right things. Just be patient and make a calculated decision, because things could work out in your favor. Let's jump on over to 7 minutes and 37 seconds here.
I hear him drumming, you hear him drumming.
I hear something drumming, yeah.
That's straight out, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And in that situation, we're pulling a direction off the drumming, which is very helpful. Like I said, drumming is something that happens in close quarters, so it could be the very last thing you hear before the gobbler actually comes into sight. So being able to hear it, determine that it's drumming, and determine where it's coming from can really be a difference maker in making sure that gun's pointed in the right direction. Let's jump over to episode 25 now at the 13-minute mark and see what happens there.
I think I hear him drumming. To the west, yeah. Up high, yeah.
Okay, in that situation, this is when Chubbs completed his U.S. Slam last year. We're in this little thicket. We're wanting the turkey to come down the field in front of us. Suddenly we start hearing drumming directly to our left and up high. So we were able to determine which side the turkey's coming in on. Otherwise, if we hadn't been able to determine that that was drumming, we would have no clue that the turkey's essentially looping around behind us, and we could have been in a real big pickle, or a bigger pickle than we were in. So let's hop on over to 15:02 and see what else we can learn from this situation.
Dude, he's right there, drumming hard as hell. Right there. Can you hear him? Can you not hear him? Straight Jesus Christ, he's got to be shocking.
So in that situation, here again, we're just listening to the turkey. We're spinning all the way around the tree. At this point, we're 180 degrees from where we started. Without being able to listen to the turkey drum and determine what it was, then we would be pointed in the absolute wrong direction. So you can definitely see the benefits of being able to determine what a turkey sounds like, get its direction, and be pointed in the right direction at the moment of truth. Number 2, second sound we want to discuss here that I think it's important for us to train our ears for is the sound of a turkey scratching in the leaves, as well as wing beats. Kind of doubled up on this one. Scratching is very important, especially early season. If you're hunting flocked up turkeys that may not be gobbling a lot, but they're in leaves. A lot of times there's really thick leaf litter. It can be really loud. If you can listen to a turkey scratch and determine that it is a turkey, determine that it's a turkey versus a squirrel or a deer or a person. Turkeys have a rhythm that they scratch. They'll they're actually scratching 3 times and they pick at the loose ground that they just opened up. It's very important for us to be able to determine exactly what we're listening to before we blow the turkeys into the next county. Let's jump into episode 10 at the 5 minute and 5 second mark.
Here's something walking over there. So I heard that scratching and I just crawled up there to check out, see what was going on. I just crawled 30 yards from a big old longbeard sitting there scratching.
Okay, so that's a perfect example of why it's important to be able to determine if it's a turkey you're hearing scratching before you crest a hill. In that situation, it was early season, the turkeys were not gobbling. We heard something walking or scratching in the leaves. We backed up, called a little bit, didn't get a response. I crept back to the crest of the hill, could still hear the turkey scratching, so I inch by inch crawled over the hill and crawled within 30 yards of the gobbler sitting there scratching in the leaves. If I didn't know what that scratching of a turkey in the leaves sounded like, we would have blown that turkey into the next county. Let's hop on over to 7 minutes and 55 seconds and see a little bit more of that. Okay, so in that clip, you can actually hear the turkey scratching in the leaves. We've based our whole approach and calculated our whole strategy on just the leaf noise. He never gobbled, he never drummed. This was a turkey that was acting like it was fall time, early season, longbeard by himself, scratching, looking for acorns, and we were able to make this whole thing come together based on the sole fact that I was able to determine that this was a turkey scratching in the leaves before we crested this hardwood ridge. Okay, the second part of this little twofer is wing beats. Some of this stuff you're just going to have to get close to turkeys, like the scratching in the leaves and like the wing beats. You just got to listen to it and determine what it is that you're listening to. Heavy turkeys sound different than light turkeys, but a lot of that's only going to come from experience. In this situation, let's go to episode 17 at the 6:45.
There was a turkey fly down way out to the left, like straight up the bottom from him.
That other turkey's going back towards the truck.
What I was able to pick out from listening to this turkey fly down, the turkey flew down from left to right. It sounded like a lighter turkey. So what I pictured in my head was a hen had flown down from the tree and was walking toward this gobbler. So we knew that most likely he was going to have a hen with him very soon, and it also meant that he was probably going to be coming out of the tree very soon. 7 minutes and 15 seconds and kind of let this thing play out.
How'd you hear it?
Yeah,
The gobbler.
not the gobbler, a different turkey.
A hen.
Yeah, probably.
In that situation, I'm kind of just telling you exactly what I just explained, that I think it was a hen that I heard fly down from left to right and going toward the gobbler we're set up on. And from hearing her wings, I was able to tell she went from left to right and not from right to left. If she went from right to left when she flew down or flew uphill, then I would have probably assumed that she was going to the turkey that was behind us, which would have been the perfect situation. That's what we would have rather her do, but and it wasn't what happened. So
The hen's right to my right. I hear him drumming.
this is when it's all coming down, and the hen does finally come into sight there. Chubbs lets you know that when he sees her, lets me know that when he sees her, and just kind of basically confirming that the picture that I had drawn up in my head that was happening without actually having to see it. So it's super important. These sounds are kind of letting us draw a picture without actually having the picture in front of us. Skip on over to 13 minutes and 6 seconds. The deer have almost fooled this situation at this point in time, but there is in fact a hen. See, I wasn't lying. Okay, so the third and final sound I think we need to be training our ears for this spring is jake yelping. It's super important. It's gained some popularity over the last couple springs, it seems, as far as working turkeys. I'm watching a lot more people do some jake yelping in videos and whatnot, and that's for good reason. It's very effective. But I think we really need to train our ears for exactly what this is telling us when we're on a piece of property and we hear jakes yelping. Let's jump into some episodes and see if it can help me explain this.
Was that a gobbler?
That was a jake gawking.
That's that way, wasn't it?
I can't tell. That was right over my right shoulder.
Yeah.
He was gawking at a gobbler drumming, I guarantee you.
Okay, in that situation, we just heard a Jake caulk. It's just breaking daylight, and you can hear me tell Chubbs, I guarantee that Jake was caulking at Gobbler's drumming. That's something that happens a lot, and that is the main thing I get from Jake yelping. When I hear a Jake caulk, we call it Jake caulking. Best way I can explain it is, I'm sure there's some clips out there on YouTube you can listen to for Jake yelping, but when a Jake caulks at a response to a gobbler drumming, it's almost like you poked them. It's almost like it's a reflex. It's, you know when you were younger and you used to sit in the floor at your grandmother's house and she was watching Wheel of Fortune? You had the game when they would spin that big old huge wheel and it would spin around and then they would land on some kind of dollar figure or whatnot. You know when you'd spin that wheel and that momentum would take it so it would start really fast, but then it would slow down into a very slow pace before it ended. That's the way I think about Jake yelping. It's something they kind of start off like they were kind of kicked into gear, but then they slowly, lose momentum. It's like a caw, 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 caw. And when you hear that, that's almost always a reaction to a gobbler drumming. Jakes are oftentimes following gobblers around, and every time that gobbler drums, he's provoked to do that. Okay, let's jump into episode 13 at the 21-minute mark, and it's going to give us a good example of Jake's caulking. Okay, you can hear a perfect example of the Jake caulking there, and that's kind of the best one I could just grab at random out of our videos here. I'm sure there's better examples online of a Jake caulking, but if you listen closely, you can hear that Jake caulking, and he was caulking at a gobbler drumming. Let's watch the next clip here at 21:40, and I want you to pay special attention here on this particular clip, because you can only see the tips of this gobbler's fan, but watch when that fan comes directly upright and vibrates, which lets you know the gobbler's drumming, and then listen for that Jake caulking to come right in after it. Okay, so if you paid attention there, you watched that gobbler's fan come right up over that hill and vibrate, letting you know that he was drumming, and that Jake caulked right on top of it. That's what they do from daylight to dark. Let's jump into some more examples, because like I said, I feel like this is the most important one we need to be training our ears for. Let's jump into 20 minutes and 32 seconds here on that same episode 13. Chubbs and I are keeping up with this flock and trying to get in front of this flock based strictly off of the caulking of the Jakes, because they're doing it pretty consistently. We know they're against a gobbler that's drumming, and so we're just using the caulking of those Jakes to try to get in front of them. Let's jump on over to episode 12 and see what we can learn there.
He's got Jakes with him. They're caulking. Maybe that'll help me out.
Okay, at that particular point, I have just confirmed with the camera that I heard some Jakes yelping. I remember this hunt because I heard a turkey gobble a handful of times really far off. I moved in the direction, but the turkey wasn't gobbling when I was moving. He'd kind of clammed up, but I was able to kind of slowly make an approach to where I felt like the turkey was, and I heard Jake's caulking. Basically, I just confirmed where that gobbler was without him having to gobble. Let's jump over to the 14-minute and 6-second mark. Okay, so at that point in time, what I'm wanting to kind of point out to you is the difference in that Jake yelp. That is a Jake that's going up a mountainside to join a big flock of turkeys, but if you listen closely, his yelp has not got that sped up front end to it. It's not got that kind of provoked sound to it, that little jump start that those Jakes caulking when they're responding to a gobbler drumming does. It is still got that coarse and edgy and ragged sound to it, but it's just a completely different yelp than that jolted caw, caw, caw that you hear when they're responding to a turkey that's drumming. So yeah, that's everything, guys. That's the 3 sounds that I think we need to be training our ears for to be more successful this spring. We've got the drumming of a wild turkey. Go find somebody that's got a pet turkey and listen to it. We've got scratching and wings. You're only going to learn that by getting close to turkeys. So jump out in the woods and get close to one. And then Jake yelping. There's a lot of examples here. There's many more within the Pinhoti project, and there's a ton more on the internet. So learn what those Jake yelping, the Jake caulking in response to a gobbler drumming is. It's definitely going to let you know what's going on in front of you without actually having to see what's going on in front of you. So anyways, first installment of the Pinhoti takeaways. Let me know what you thought about it. If there's any topics you want us to hit or want us to discuss, let me know those as well. I hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to seeing you on the next one.